Welcome to the Blessed Mindset Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Raykel Tolson, and we are broadcasting on WYTV7, where they have a mission to empower, encourage, and educate. Now, if you have been blessed by the Blessed Mindset Matters podcast, I need you to do me a favor and go to www.wytv7.org, hit the green donate button, donate whatever you can, 5, 10, 20, 25, whatever, whatever you can to help further the mission. All the podcast hosts are out here trying to encourage, educate, and empower. And we're also feeding families and we're sending kids to school. So go to www.ytv7.org, hit the donate button. Thank you. So you guys know 2022 is a 6th year. I'm calling it the year of family. All the rest of this season, all I'm talking about is family. I'm bringing on people so we can help families to just thrive this year. This is the year to make family your focus. And my guest today is Dr. L. Brown. And y'all know I always bring on friends. Well, this is a new friend because, once I meet you, you're going to be my friend. But she's also a Rattler. She graduated from FAMU like me. And she's a member of Delta Sigma Theta. So, I'm probably going to bring her back. She's probably going to be my resident family person. I'm probably going to bring her back a whole lot. Welcome to Blessed Mindset Matters, Elle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm quite excited to be here. Families is my passion. So coming on to talk about families and how we can support families, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be today.
Yes. And I didn't give you a whole bio, but tell the people a little bit about you and how you help families.
Well, okay. So I am a parent and family engagement strategist, which means I work with agencies and organizations who work to support young children and their families. And I partner with these agencies to help improve the relationship so that they can be relevant, so they can be supportive, and also so that they can be culturally responsive to the needs of the individuals and the families that they serve. That also extends into opportunities to work directly with families to help them gain strategies and skills that improve engagement within the household, not only to support academic growth, but also for social emotional development as well.
Yeah, see that part right there. I'm so glad you are the right person for this conversation. You are the right person. Thank you so much for being here. Let me ask you this. So last week I talked about interdependence as opposed to dependence and independence. I feel that the whole independent has created a problem for families, and that we need for people to focus more on interdependence, where you have two independent people or various independent people coming together and working together. What do you think? Like how can interdependence, or how can we teach our children interdependence without teaching them to be dependent on people? Because it's a slippery slope, I'm sure. Because I think about when my mom, she didn't want me to depend on anybody. And so, and a lot of us got that message, you don't need to depend on anybody, but it kind of created this whole, I don't need no man, or I don't need nobody. And really, that's not how God created us. He created us to depend on each other. So how would you say that we should do that? Because I always think start young, teach the young ones. How do we do that?
Okay, well, first I would go to understanding exactly what family is. So by definition, family is not a structure, but a function. So when you think of family as a function, within that function, everyone has roles to include the child in the family. Mom has a role, dad has a role, loved ones, whomever is the family that loves and cares for an individual they all have roles. So then if we want to go a little further to extend outside of what we consider the immediate family, we can then think of a village of sorts.
Yes.
So with a village, everyone within the village plays a role as well. And I think that when we start to tell children, even though it's something I was told also as a young person, that, rely on yourself, you're all that you need. With that, there's some truth to being able to be self-reliant. However, with that, you can go further, farther, faster when you partner with individuals who know things other than what you know. So when we think of family, there are three different types of family. You have your family of procreation, and that's the family that you create with someone. Then you have your family of origin, and that's the family that you're born into or adopted into. And then you have the family of choice. And those are the people who you have chosen to go with you through this journey that we call life. Now, in each one of those different types of families, we have roles that we play. So if you were in your family of origin, whomever was head of household may have served in the role of protector, provider, guidant, steward. Then whomever was in the role of child may have played the role of, sometimes it could be the comedian, sometimes it could be, a helper if they're an older sibling. Sometimes it could be cuddle buddy. So we all have these various roles that we play inside these families. Then when you move on to your family of procreation, someone who was once a child, who was maybe the comedian of the family, then becomes the breadwinner or may become the nurturer. When you have the family of choice, you'll have someone who may serve as the confidant, someone who may serve as a leader of sorts, someone who may serve as entertainment. There are so many roles that we play. So when it comes to understanding being interdependent, I think that we have to take time to focus on what are the strengths of the people that we consider family members. And then when we recognize their strengths and the role that we play, we allow them to grow in that particular area. And then that way, not only are they walking into their independence and their autonomy of being who and what they are, but we as family members are also growing in our appreciation of individuals who are different than us. And there becomes a breeding ground to learn that in this world, we have various people with various talents who can serve various roles within our lives.
That's good. When you were saying that, it made me think of this song when I was a little kid in church. We sang, it was by "We're the Body of Christ." It's like, I am the I go blink blink, but I'm the I and I can't think. That belongs to my friend the brain. And it's like really understanding when we have our kids, not focusing on, oh my gosh, just the movie Encanto. I don't know if you watched it. So if you haven't watched it, it's probably going to be a spoiler. I'm sorry. But basically, the family had gifts and, these special gifts. And the grandmother was really so focused on the gift that she forgot to focus on just how special the people were. So when there was a child who didn't have a gift, that child wasn't special. And that's what happens. We start focusing on, like, if our kid is we have an athlete and it's like, oh, this person is so great because they could maybe become a professional athlete and take the family here, and they skirt over the kid who can make people laugh. It was because maybe they were the class clown and they always got in trouble, but they don't appreciate the fact that that kid kept everybody laughing. Or the person who helps mom in the kitchen. Sometimes that person gets overlooked because they're the helper, and they feel overwhelmed because people aren't, celebrating them. It's really important that we begin to celebrate everybody and finding the thing that they bring to the table and celebrate them for that. But the other thing is, though, but not keeping them in that box, allowing them to learn about other things and to bring other stuff to the table. If you make me laugh, I shouldn't require you to make me laugh every time I see you. Because maybe you don't want to make me laugh today. Maybe today is the day you want to bring some wisdom. But we don't see you as the wisdom bringer because you the person that makes us laugh. So we
Right.
have to be careful about boxing people in.
Most certainly. With that, you most certainly want to give space for individuals to be who and what they are. With that said, oftentimes individuals will find ways to compensate for what gaps may occur. So if you look at that child who may be the comedian of the family, it might be some tension in the family, and the comedian might do that to keep the peace or to alleviate some of that tension. Or if you might have the individual who's the helper, like I know with my son, he's very attuned to my social emotional placement. And if I find that, like, sometimes I'll exhale, that's one of my coping strategies when things get to be a bit tense inside my head. I go, if he hears me do that, I'll soon see himself busy himself around the house, because he's thinking, okay, mom's stress, let me lighten her load. Or if we're at an amusement park and let's say he's giving me directions and I may let out one of those, he knows that he's then going to give me a hug. And he's told me, he says, this lady needs a hug, because he knows at that point I'm getting to the point of annoyance, and he wants to alleviate that annoyance because he knows if I get too annoyed, we're leaving. So he wants to extend our time there. So he stands to mitigate my going any further than the point I am right now, and in hopes to bring me back down so we can spend several more hours at the amusement park. So again, if we allow our children or even our family members who are adults space to be who and what they are, I think naturally as humans, we seek to close gaps. So when we see something that is needed, and those are individuals that we care about, we seek to fill it within our capacity.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. I hope everybody is out there listening, because this is some good stuff. This is some stuff that help families to move past. If you haven't been doing it, in the past, you can get there. It is because it's simple. It's not like you have to have these major changes. It's just kind of open your eyes and looking and listening and seeing, because people show you who they are. And especially with our kids, they show us who they are. I tell people all the time, just when you have these little bitty kids, if you just sit there and watch them and listen to them, and you see what they like, you see what they're good at, instead of you telling them what they're good at, you sit back and you look and you like, okay, I got it. I see you.
Boom.
Oh man, we have to take a quick commercial break, but when we get back, I want to go into that I see you. I love movies, and it just brought up the movie Avatar. I see you, and how important it is for us to see one another in a family. We'll be right back.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
Okay, we're back, and before we left, I was talking about that I see you from the movie Avatar, and that's how they communicated with each other when they first saw. They said, "I see you," and I just think that's so important for us to see one another. Tell me something in your practice, or just working with families. How can we see one another, and not just the kids? Sometimes I think moms get lost. And a lot of families, if they get lost, and like, so not only how do you see others, but how do you make sure you continue to see yourself, and to continue, to be yourself in the family?
Well, the first thing I would say is slow down. We live in a world that is really fast paced. One of the blessings in the pandemic, if you want to look for a positive, was it forced us to slow down. And many of the families who I work with, I've heard them say that while it's stressful having their little ones at home, because they were in this space where they had to slow down and they were sheltering in place, they began to notice parts of their children's personalities that they weren't as familiar with prior to the pandemic. So one of the things that you can do if you want to take time to, now this is seeing someone outside of yourself, uh, just do activities that are child-centered. And when I say child-centered, sometimes while we have these things that we want to do because they are indicative of what family activities might be, or what age-appropriate activities might be, or what boys do or what girls do, we need to maybe take some time and focus on what interests our child and then follow that particular interest. Like, for instance, my son is on the autism spectrum. And very early on, after his diagnosis at 4, we started a therapy with a licensed clinical social worker called Floor Time. And one of the tenets of Floor Time is that we teach from the inside out. We get to know the child's interests, and we use that interest as a focal point to teach so that they can gain new skills, but we're working with this thing that they really enjoy. We do the same thing in early childhood when child-centered education. We seek to understand what children are interested in, and then we use that as a foundation from which to teach. One can do that in the household as well. You can find that thing, your child's thing, and join them in that thing. And when people are doing their thing, they're in this optimal place of euphoria, engagement, and therein you'll get kids talking, because when they're doing their thing, not only are they going to talk about what they're doing, but they're also going to explain to you how it works. And with that, you have a foundation from which you can start other conversations. And then you're able to see that child in the light of doing something that is important to them. And that's their passion, because even a 4-year-old has a passion, something that they are excited about. When it comes to seeing yourself, I would say similarly, while you want to stop and slow down, you also want to spend time with yourself. Like when I started to migrate into my independence after my divorce, I had to take some time to discover what I liked, because I had focused for so many years in caring for a husband, caring for my child as a stay-at-home mom. My role was to take care of our home. So that didn't really leave a whole lot of space for me to explore the things that I enjoyed. So when I started dating, people would ask me like, so what do you like to do for fun? And I could remember all the things that my ex-husband liked to do. I knew all the things that my son liked to do, but I honestly didn't know what I liked to do. So I actually spent about 2 years just exploring Ale. Now, other people mightn't have that opportunity depending on how resources are in your household. It was just so that I was gifted with that opportunity to just spend 2 years just to explore, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do? What brings me joy? And when I discovered those things, I then make certain that I move in a path towards the things that bring me joy. Now, I'm 46 years old and I'm still learning myself every day. But one of the things I did learn from that 2-year journey was to take time and do a lot of self-reflection. And self-reflection does not have to be anything long. It's something that you could do in the shower. How was my day today? What brought me joy? What didn't I like? And one of the things that I found that might be just my thing, I found that I was a bit of a people pleaser. And I didn't realize that I was. But when I would go back and reflect over my day, the things that I would feel badly about were things I should have said this. And I don't know why I said yes to that when I didn't really want to do it. And so I then started making efforts to give myself grace and opportunity to do the things that bring me joy and to limit the things that didn't bring me joy, because I deserve to be happy.
Oh, I like it. I like it. That's good. So part of being in a family, you know, when you say a happy wife, happy life, or happy mom, like everybody has to find their happy place.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like, you
to
know.
that, I actually saw something where we had a placard in our home that says happy wife, happy life. And that didn't work because I got divorced. But I later saw something that said happy spouse, happy house. So everyone deserves to be happy.
Everyone, right. And it's like everybody has to find their happy place. And I think part of, you know, just even in the family, learning each other's happy place, letting them take that time to be happy in that place, whether it's everybody together or the separately, because some of your children may be extroverts and their happy place means everybody is doing it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have an introvert, their happy place is doing something by themselves. So you can't just assume that the person wants to be by themselves.
Boom.
My son liked to watch TV together. He didn't like being off to himself watching TV. He enjoyed watching TV with me, and we had conversations during the commercials, or sometimes it was just like, oh my gosh, did you see that? It was just it was a family thing. When he went to be with his dad, they were more he can go and do this by himself. And he wasn't happy doing that because that's not how he liked to do it. So it's important to kind of know that. We are almost out of time, but one of the things I wanted to also talk about, Kwanzaa principle. We just kind of got out of Kwanzaa, and I don't know if everybody is familiar with, but there are 3 Kwanzaa principles: Umoja, Ujima, Ujama. That's unity, collective work and responsibility, and cooperative economics. And to me, those things, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about, the interdependence of a family, of a community, of of Black folk. That's kind of what Kwanzaa is about, a community of Black folk. But in a family, how do we begin to teach these, not just at Kwanzaa, not just at Christmas time and Kwanzaa time, but all throughout? What are the best ways you think that we can really teach a family unity, collective responsibility, cooperative economics? Because I think everything starts in the family. Everything starts at home. So do you have some things that you would suggest to families to do that?
So what would I suggest that a family do if they want to start teaching unity to their children?
Yeah.
Model it. First and foremost, we become what we see. So rather than having the lesson, I would model it. If you were talking about Ujama and you want to support Black-owned businesses, have your children see you support Black-owned businesses and narrate to them what you are doing as you are doing and why it is important. So again, when we think of ourselves as family members, let's think of it as a function. So in that function, I am operating as an educator. I am a curator of experiences for my child, and I take on those roles. So whatever it is that is important to me for my child to understand, it is something that I'm going to ensure that my child sees me doing. When it comes to collective in the community, when it comes to your social organizations, whether it be Jack and Jill or Delta Sigma Theta, you want your children to see you interact with groups that collectively understand the importance of giving to a community. So whether it be your church family, so whatever is important to you, as opposed to just speaking it, live it. Because if you live it, that communicates, we are these kinds of people. These are the things that are important to us. So more so than teaching your children the values, you're going to show your children your values, and then you're going to explain why those values are important to your family.
Yes, I love it. Oh, I love it. Modeling the behavior that we want them to do, we have to do it first. Yeah, so it's like, when I remember saying, do as I say, not as I do, but that's not how life works. We do as our parents do. And so it's important for parents to do the things that you want your children to do.
And bring them in as you do it, because we have to remember that learning is a sensory experience. So if you're just telling your child, that's one sense you're touching, whereas you want to touch a multitude of senses. So you want them to go out, you want them to see it, you want them to hear it, you want them to smell it, you want them to, with the kinesthetic part, you want them to touch it and actually have a hands-on experience. You even want them to smell it. Our culture smells a certain way. Fried chicken has a smell to it. Incense has a smell to it. You don't want these things to be foreign. If these are things that you value, you want your child to be aware of that sensory experience.
I'm sorry, this cold is like killing me, but I remember my grandmother would wake us up on Saturday morning to clean. And I think a lot of people have these, like, these remembering. And then, like, my mother, I remember me as a young mother waking my son up on Saturday morning with the music, because I like the music and he enjoyed music. So I'm putting on old school music, like, okay, let's clean. I'm not telling him to clean. We're cleaning together. We're listening to, and we're jamming and we're doing it. And then it's so funny. But I remember, because my grandmother would wake me up to the sound of the vacuum cleaner. I hated that. But as I had to get up, I wanted to be waking up to the music, because I'm gonna get up anyway. But can it be a different sound than the vacuum cleaner? So that's when I started doing it with my son, waking him up to the loud music. Usually it was Earth, Wind, and Fire, which is one of his favorite bands now. And we're cleaning, and so I really like how you said that, and because I'm like, I've been doing it, and you don't really know that you're doing it. But most of us are probably out there doing these things, but we have to, like, be more intentional, I think.
Intentionality,
What
yes.
we're doing, and this is why we're doing it, and then even explaining the why to the kids, why we're doing it. My nephew said something about it, because we have a family Christmas. We just came out of it. Every other year we were intentional about getting together, because I lived far away from where my sisters, and we wanted our children to grow up together. So if we only got together every other year at Christmas time, but they were able to, bond. But I don't think we spoke that to them.
Right.
So we had to be more intentional. We did it, but we needed to be intentional by telling them why we were doing it.
Exactly. Be explicit, while you're going through the motions. If you aren't explicit, then children will come to their own understanding of what's occurring. So you model, and then you give explicit conversation to support what they've just seen. To your point about the cleanup, one time I asked my son what type of music did he want to hear. We were in the car. He says cleanup music. I said, well, what's cleanup music? And he said, church music, because I play church music when I clean. So my son will equate church music to it's time to clean the house, to clean up.
That's
cleanup
hilarious. Music. That's hilarious. We are almost out of town. So this year, WYTV7 is like the year for them of trying. So what would you encourage families to try this year?
Two things. One, I would say to try to slow down amidst all this going on. And the second is try to give yourself grace. Anything that you are trying to master, anything that you're trying new, or if you're trying to break the cycle of what happened when you were young, you mightn't get it right on the first try, second try, third try, or fourth. So give yourself grace. Pardon yourself if you go back into practices that you're trying to go away from. Pardon yourself if your words didn't match your intentions just right, and just know that you can do it again and again and again. Because while we get tired, one of the things I tell all parents, that the days are long, but the years are short. So we may be stuck in those days, but in each of those days, we're creating memories that's going to last us a lifetime, not just for us, but for our children. So slow down and give yourself grace. Try to do those things in 2022.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell everybody how to find you before we go.
I can be found at KinderJam.com, or I'm also available on social media as L Brown. But I'm just L Brown, and I'm here to serve families, but you can most certainly reach me through KinderJam.com.
Thank you so much. We have got to go. I'm going to bring her back because I have so much more to talk about. We have so much more work to do with families. So until next week, you guys be blessed.